entity up. So that's just at least it begins with J. How do I introduce myself? I've been been a printer for 40 years, and I didn't touch his Gestetna until about 5 years ago. They were around when I first started printing, but because life there was so much easier, I never gave the Gestetna the time of its day. However, its day has come as far as I've taken up a ball and been running with it for a few years now to see what it was that made this machine so special. And I think I've discovered why it is so special. I've also discovered why it's fallen by the wayside as well. I think people who have got riso machines and can make their stencils very easily are onto a winner that way. Mainly because I guess the stencils that you get nowadays are just a little bit too difficult to handle. I'm sure they were easier to handle. Most stencils nowadays you handle like about 20 years old, unless you get these newfangled stencils from Thailand, I think. There's some coming in from China. The Arsi from Finland is working on it. There he is. Yeah, he's working on that, and I'm really looking forward to being able to, practice on those to see how they work. But okay, I don't know what else to say. I really like Gestetnas because they smell nice, much nicer than the bleeding.
This is very
printer. So
thanks, Jim. Well, we'll have time to discuss materials at length here in just a little bit. I am going to do just a short presentation. I know there are a lot of people in the audience who are maybe not as familiar with the copiers that we're already talking about. So I'm going to do just like a 5-minute slideshow. I'm sure for some people it'll create more questions than it answers, but hopefully because we have such a great panel, they will be able to pick up my Slack here.
Okay.
So what we're talking about today are duplicators, copying technology that predates the photo, the Xerox machine or the photo duplicator. Of course, there are a lot of risograph fans and users in the audience too. The risograph very much is a descendant of the mimeograph machine, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that more in a bit. But what you see here on the left is a hectograph, which is a jelly plate duplicator that was used a lot in the 1800s. In the middle is a mimeograph machine, which is a stencil duplicator. And on the right is a ditto machine, generically known as a spirit duplicator. And it is a direct descendant of the hectograph. So this is way too complicated to get into now, but a lot of people ask, what's the difference between printing, copying, and duplicating? Copying and duplicating are pretty much the same. The big difference is that copying and duplicating don't use type. Lead type or wood type, what we commonly think of as printing. What made copying and duplicating so quick and inexpensive is that it uses different types of printing matrices, either stencils in the case of mimeograph or aniline dye master sheets in the case of Hecto and Ditto. But before I nerd out on that too much, I will leave that there. Here's a little better picture of an ad for a hectograph. The gelatin plate are sort of like the jellies that people use for making monograph prints with acrylic paints now, except they absorb the aniline dye from the master sheet, and then you can print up to about 40 copies from a hectograph. A lot of us are old enough to remember the purple Ditto sheets that we got in school. Those copies were made on a spirit duplicator and are famous for their wonderful and intoxicating smell. The mimeograph began as a flat plate duplicator as well, very much like a modern silkscreen. And then it progressed into a rotary copier that is often mistaken for a spirit duplicator. They look very similar. Hectographs in the 1800s were used for official documents of all sorts, business and government. Here's one from the Sudan in the 1880s. The Russian Futurists were particularly fond of the hectograph as a low-cost replacement for lithography. You could get very similar effects with the hectograph. But most famous for their use of the hectograph were science fiction fans of the early 20th century. Young science fiction fans started putting out fanzines in the 30s, and many of the best covers were produced using hectographic pencils and hectographic inks. Mae Strelkov, an Argentine hectograph artist, is one of my favorites. She did particularly psychedelic sort of landscapes. And I tried to use some of her techniques in one of my pieces. This is sort of a riff on Thomas Hart Benton's The Flood, done in the style of Mae Strelkov. John Michel, his covers very much echoed the style of the Russian constructivists, as you can see. Art Widener's stencils were amazing, sort of folk art, sort of futuristic. Another great example from 1946. And Damon Knight came out of the WPA poster project and was quite a accomplished silkscreen printer. So you can see sort of the crossover between silkscreen and mimeograph in his covers. Lisa Ben Tygrina, she was a major force in fanzines in California in the 1940s, making science fiction and fantasy fanzines. She always depicted herself as Tygrina the Witch, accompanied by her black cat. And later she started using the nom de plume Lisa Ben and started publishing America's first lesbian publication, a fanzine called Vice Versa. She produced it in the office where she worked at RKO Pictures in Hollywood. Art Widener here. I like this page because it shows a lot of the kind of stencils and lettering guides that you could get for mimeograph at that time. And he really went nuts. He must have gotten a new set when he did this. He looks like he used every one of them. And thanks to Pete Balestreri, who I think is in the audience. Pete is a curator at Special Collections here at the University of Iowa. And he discovered in a fanzine this write-up on how to create your own mimeograph by wrapping a stencil around a paint can. So that is pretty amazing and actually works really well. I managed to do that recently. William Everson's War Elegies is sort of the first of the beatnik mimeograph, what's called the Mimeograph Revolution, was the sort of boom in small independent underground presses that went through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it all started in a conscientious objector camp in Waldport, Oregon in 1946, where Everson produced his War Elegies on a mimeograph machine. And by 1964, Ed Sanders was putting out Fuck You, a magazine of the arts. Ed Sanders, the poet and member of the band The Fugs, was sort of a proto-punk and is still around writing and doing stuff today. Leroy Jones and Diane Deprima put out the Floating Bear, sort of the seminal newsletter of the beatnik generation. And they used mimeograph machines for that. And here's Erwin today, reviving the use of the mimeograph for artists all over Europe, and hopefully coming soon to a art studio near you in North America as well. Tetsuya Noda, Japanese photographer, uses mimeograph and uses the flat plate method, which remained popular much longer in Japan. And Tomoko Kanzaki is doing more than anybody to bring back the Gariban technique. And I believe she's with us today too. So hopefully we can get her to be a special guest at a future event. And that's all I've got to share. I will turn it over to Joseph, who is going to MC a conversation with our panelists today.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think we actually have 3 panelists that are coming at the process a little bit differently, and are kind of using it all in a little bit of a different ways. And I'd like to kind of just like ask everybody, you know, their inspirations, because some of their inspirations are also some of our inspirations. And, you know, I think it'd be nice to just hear kind of like why people are using this obsolete medium and coming back. I guess I kind of want to actually kind of ask this general question that was on the forum here, that just sort of everybody, you know, because I know that Erwin's a little bit of a I don't even know what you would call him. He's like this mimeo all the way, you know, kind of guy who's proselytizing for mimeograph around the world. And Anna is doing a different type of work with risographs, but in a certain sense, you know, they're all kind of the same. And Jim is doing work, you know, out of his garage, right, Jim? You've got your setup in your garage, which I think there's one thing that I think Ed Sanders would say about all this is that you just do it, right? You just, you know, how would they make a poetry book back in the 60s? I talked to Ed Sanders a little bit about this, and I talked to John Sinclair about this, who are 2 generals in the mimeograph army. And they just said, you get a case of beer and some paper and a machine, and you go to work. And then by the morning, you have poetry books. So I guess my question is for, like, say, Jim, and I'll go through each one of you. You know, why does duplications matter? Why are you doing this in your garage? Why? What's the motivation? Turn your volume on.
Unmute. Why am I doing it in my garage? Because I can make a mess there without it getting in the way of my living accommodation. And also, why do I do it? I was really intrigued to be able to get the feel of what it was like to put a magazine together where you were in direct control of the damn thing. One of the reasons why printers are actually the bête noire, the enemies of publication, the enemies of the word are actually printers. When back in the day, they had these damn unions, and the only person who could print something for you was a member of a union. Look, I'm not trying to be anti-union. I'm actually trying to be anti-guild, which is not quite the word I should be using here. But there was a mystery about the print, which printers didn't like to share. And that is why the Mimeo democratized, that's not the word I would use, but I suppose it expresses what happened when a machine came along that anybody could use. You look at the adverts, and this is another thing I shouldn't say. You look at the adverts for Gestetnas. The only people you ever see running the machine in adverts are women, and that's because It's so easy to use, even a woman can run it. So that's how come the Mimeograph Revolution happened. It was a machine that actually made it easy to go print. So I wanted to get a feel of that. I didn't go through an apprenticeship. I sort of went through the back door of trade unionism when I was 20 odd to do litho printing. And so I just skipped that little hoop of doing duplicated magazines. I was doing poetry and the counterculture printing back in the 70s. And then realized I had to make a living, and then stopped realizing I had to make a living and picked up the duplicator 4 or 5 years ago. Hang on, what was the question you asked?
Yeah, you answered it.
Why
That's
am I
great.
doing it in my garage? Because,
I'm actually going to take the question and I'm going to transition over to Anna, because Anna is using her risograph and doing just some of those things that you said. So like, Anna, I just want to come back to you in a question and ask, you know, yeah, I like showed up on your doorstep at 10 o'clock one morning or 11 o'clock and everybody was like, wait, we give a risograph now? And then I dropped it off. And now several years later, you've made dozens of amazing pieces and amazing work. And that, like, there's a certain freedom in it, right? There's a certain freedom in printing risograph, and it's different than other printing processes. Can you talk a little bit about that freedom and what led you to work on some counterculture work and some stuff you've been doing during COVID, and you did some protest art, which I thought was exemplary as well?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of print studios this summer offered free services for whoever needed protest art made. So that was really fun. And I met a lot of people in Cleveland that way. But I'm not really sure why I do it to myself. I guess I just really like this kind of torture of figuring out how to make a thing work that is really hard to access education on the subject. You know, you just kind of have to tinker with it and figure out how to fix it and how to make it run. And I was really attracted to the way that the Riso printed stuff looks, because it doesn't look like anything else. And I also enjoy training my brain to figure out how to use color in different media. Mixing color in Riso prints is very specific to the risograph. It's sort of why I was also attracted to paper making. It's just a material that doesn't act like anything else, and it's fun to figure out.
Yeah, and let's take that right there. Thanks for that. Let's transition to Erwin real quick, because I know that Erwin, you have so many machines that you leave a color on each machine, and that's the color that machine has. It's a little different, right? Because the risograph, you gotta load up the drum, right? But for Erwin, he has enough machines to do color. And I remember talking to Erwin once about doing color, and like, Erwin, can you tell us more about doing full color prints and full color separation, and why you only do RGB, why CMYK is too much? But yeah, why? And then also, Erwin, why does Mimeo matter to you? Because Mimeo matters a lot to you.
I can show you here. I reverse the camera. This is my setup for the full color prints. This is the yellow machine, red, and the blue one. And mostly these stay permanent in this color. I can change also, but this is my full color set, and the black one. So I did this in Budapest. I print out, because this is my printing works too. Here's the offset press. So I have the printing stuff to print out the color separations here. And the final result, I did this in Budapest. This is the final result. And here is another one I did in Vienna. Mostly, this is when I'm visiting a place, the first print is some pictures of the city or the country I'm at, just to demonstrate what is possible. How far for me it's always the thing to get the maximum out of a machine. So I use loads of color, and mostly when I'm fixing machines now, I see that a lot of studios are have Gestetnas between the risos, so they have the inks and everything. Then they can mix. So I get some colors from the studios where I am repairing. So I have mostly all the colors I have in stock to switch and to mix and to do funny things with machines and everything. And here is the Wildeburg, the zine stuff, and then we can use any color we want. That's what I have. Here are the fluor stuff, and you see, this is the Wildeburg. We print at the Wildeburg Festival in the Netherlands, this daily magazine, 2,500 copies of these each from one master. I can only use one master for the whole run. And here's some other things I did in previous. You see? Yeah, that is my lucky. I have loads of machines also for repairing stuff. That one is going to China. The problem is in some countries it's difficult, hard to find machines, good machines in the second-hand market. So I do a lot of repairing also here in the studio. This is all stuff you can see, all the tools and the parts and everything. You see? This is a big one. This is rarely machine. This is the A3 machine, double full step duplicator. With a stand and everything. So yeah, it depends on it depends on the project. Where I'm asked for, what I'm doing with the stuff. Yeah.
But it seems like one of your main things, though, with all of this is education. Even though you're making all this great work, it seems like how you're going around the whole Europe is you're really bringing this type of tool to classroom settings, to art schools, to
and I know a lot of the inside of the machine, so I know exactly what happens inside the Gestetna. So I know exactly how to adjust the machine to get the highest results you can get. And sometimes I'm experimenting with some artwork, what I did by myself. That is this poster. This is my own stuff. Just to do funny things. Yeah, and this is some stuff I did in my exhibition a few years ago. It was 100 years Mondrian, 100 years. So I did this print. It's on Instagram that I'm running it. Yeah, it depends on the project. This one is a Gestetna print I did in Budapest, and I presented this one. This is David Gestetna printed in gold. I give this to the mayor of Xorna, the birthday place of David Gestetna. It's one copy is hanging in the entrance of the town hall there. So it's all projects are different. I have not a particular style of printing stuff or working. Yeah, this is another thing. This is a fuser for the paper offset plates, but I use this for the embossing stuff. This is another thing I'm developing now. This is printed by Gestetna, and then with powder you can heat it up and you get very nice results. You see, you feel the ink on the paper. Yeah. So I do a lot of testing and stuff and trying new things. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, and fixing machines for other people. Last week I got a friend from Germany and the people from Belgium, because I can't travel now because of the corona trouble. So some people came here with machines I had to fix. This is one from Switzerland. I found this in Switzerland. So it's still going, but I'm not much traveling now. Maybe in a few months I can go on tour again. Yeah. You see, this is also a part of my printing office. This is the cutting machine. Everything I have here. You see? Yeah. this one. Yeah. So this is part of what I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah, Erwin, I guess I want to ask is like, I've tracked you now for a while, and to just move into the other question is, why education? You bring this a lot to students, and I know that everybody uses this process to teach, and I'm not too sure, Anna, if you're teaching anything or you're collaborating with anybody, or if you have a skill share with other mimeograph or riso printers in Europe. But you know, these workshops you do, Erwin, you know, the students really learn stuff, right? I mean, tell us a little bit about just the workshop. Tell us a little bit about how this is a tool for education.
Sometimes mostly they only know about the riso process, but yeah, they know a lot of books. They learn a lot more about how the process works, how you print things, and how and how you could pre-digital way to do things and everything. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, mostly are people using typewriters, and I have loads of back stencils too, because of so many machines. A lot of machines came with spare stuff, so I have enough materials to let people do what they want to do. Yeah.
Hey, JS, we've got several questions from the audience about stencils. I wonder if particularly Jim, since he mentioned the new stencils, and Erwin could talk about what they're using for stencils for mimeograph, where they're getting them, how they're making them, that sort of thing. Jim, do you want to carry on with your stencil thoughts a little bit, and then back to Erwin?
The beautiful thing about using the Gestetna is that you do have these stencils that you can draw on them, you can type on them, and then you put it on the machine. And so far, your ideas haven't left your hand. Your brain has told your hand to do something, and you use a stencil and you turn the handle, and there is your thoughts on the piece of paper. That's why I like machines so much. With respect to the stencils, because they're so old, I believe they're not as easy to use as they were in the past, because you can see just extraordinary work that was being done in the past on ordinary wax stencils, pretty detailed. The people were skilled. I mean, we saw the Ed Sanders magazine, the Fuck You magazine, and we saw the Floating Bear magazine. I mean, those guys were more interested in getting the ink onto the paper than they were on having the ink look really nice, because Floating Bear is probably the most terribly produced magazine you've ever seen. But at least it happened. Whereas if you go to some of the examples of Gestetna work that you see interleaved into Gestetna publicity material, extraordinary.
I have it here. That's here. This is stuff
Erwin will show you something.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Extraordinary work that you can do. But
this is from here. Look at this.
When Arsi, tell us about these new stencils that the stencils that are coming out of. They started off in China, did they, or were they being made in Thailand? I wonder if I'm pointing to his face on the screen, which is not much good to anybody.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah.
Arsi, can you talk to us?
Yes, I'm.
Well, the question.
Well,
oh, sorry, I just wanted to get back. Oh, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
May I?
Please.
So, I did order some stencils from China.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that the price is cheap, but once you start buying, the price goes up unless you buy 100 boxes or something like that. I bought some Chinese stencils. They were very odd size, and I sent some samples to Jim. They have a very, very bad smell, but I think they are mostly used in some industry But now I had a friend who actually is coming from Indonesia, and he sourced these Dito stencils, which are
Yeah.
very high quality. It says more than 5,000 copies, and I've done something like 1,000 prints with no problems typing stencils. Of course, the traditional. I did buy actually. I used a lot of money, and I bought 350 boxes of these. So I will probably sell them for the rest of my life. So I hope that's several decades to go. And I'm figuring out what the good price might be, because I cannot make profit, but then the quality is good, and as soon as I get them ready for the market, I put them on eBay or something.
If you'd like to share your contact info in the chat, we can, we can help you promote that. I for one would love to have a chance to try some of those.
Okay.
If Erwin could show us a little bit about, because what he's done is he's tricked out to answer your question, Morgan. Erwin has tricked out a mimeograph machine to print a stencil without ink in it, and then he removes the stencil from the Mimeo, and then he has printed a special header. So Erwin's going to show us.
It's this one. This is a Hectograph preport. Yeah. This machine is I can demonstrate. This machine is working without ink. It's a digital duplicator, but I see here is the original. Put it on the glass plate. Scan it. You can see. It's the same kind of machine as a Riso machine, but it's working without. I took off the table. I have always this machine in my car when I'm on tour. I bring always this stuff with me. He's burning the master now. It's 20 seconds and you are done. Here's a master you can use on the Gestetna. You see? It's working without ink. I have a clean master. See, this was my solution to continue printing on Gestetnas first. And with this master, I made a die for the headings. It's because I have my Heidelberg press here. So I make a die from, you can see, and with this machine, I make this. I have and I stick this on the Riso master, and then you can run easily on Gestetna the amount of copies you want to have. Yeah, mostly people who has a Gestetna. I send some headers out of the world. They use this. Mostly they take people take an ink master from their own Riso, cut it on the right size, use my headings, and then they can continue on the Gestetnas. That's my that's a digital way, and the other people want to have to use the traditional wax stencils or use the original electronic stencils. I have about 10 working stencil cutters in collection. This is also possible. You see? So it depends on the project, what are the demands are. So, but I can do it in every way you want. Yeah. Okay.
Morgan had another question. Oh, sorry, Joseph, go ahead.
What you see is you someone like most artists, right? You have to make do with what you have, creative with your resources, right? And Erwin has successfully figured out this sort of hybrid process, where, I envision if is there a way to do this? Is there a way for the risograph crowd to, take a drum clean all the ink out of it and make it a perfectly clean drum,
Yeah.
and then make the stencil and pull it out, right, Erwin?
I was in the studio in The Hague in Holland a few months ago, and they put on they have an MZ 2-color riso, and they took it's a function in a machine to put a security master on the drum. Then the machine removes the use master, and it's a blank. They put a blank master on the drum. Then we with some tape we fixed that master on the drum, and then we recurved the sensor, and then that master stays on the machine, and then we could make another master with the image on it on the same drum, and so that was the quickest way to get a clean master without ink. And so we use and the security master stays continually on the drum till we finish the job, and then you remove that master again, and then you can use the drum to print again. That was the easiest, the quickest way to do it, to make clean masters with a machine, with a normal machine, with ink in it. Yeah, I saw that for the first time he did. I didn't know it was possible, but it was so easy. Yeah, yeah.
There's some other suggestions going on. Sal posted a suggestion about using a drum with dried ink on it, also putting paper on a drum. I guess there's a bunch of different techniques here that people are sharing in the chat. Of ways to get that master and then tape it onto a heading and be able to use it. And yeah, right. There's also a thermofax, right, as well.
Yeah.
People have used thermofax.
Yeah.
Like tattoo parlors use that.
Mm-hmm.
Still, they use a thermofax. Might be.
But for my kind of work, you lose. It's interesting for people who have not much space, but for my kind of work, you lose so much quality. So I don't use it. And this is, and in a masterclass, I have to use so many stencils. With a group of 15 people, with 5-6 colors on each sheet, we use 200 stencils in one day. So that with this machine, it goes so fast. So I had to think about a way to do it very quick. My first workshop at the Jan van Eyck in The Hague, we used electronic stencils, but with a group of 10 people, 2 stencil cutters were burning the whole day, and it smelled so heavy in the classroom, and it takes too much time to make stencils in that way for such a big group of people. So I had to find out a solution to do it quicker and faster. And then I had because I asked Riso to sponsor me, because I couldn't afford a Riso to buy just for making the stencils. And so I went by a mechanic to the competitor, Rito, and he donated me this machine. I get this for free. So that's now my way of making stencils more. And sometimes more of these machines come up on the Dutch marketplaces, so I buy, and very cheap. A lot of people get rid of this kind of stuff, so I buy these machines on the Dutch marketplace for €100. So I have a few more here to convert for only stencil making. So I bought this one, I bought this one. See? Yeah. So for me, it's this the quickest, the best way to run the job. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, yeah. Thank you, Erwin. I want to actually go back to Anna real quick and switch up the question. I'm kind of curious, like how community that's wrapped itself around Riso and Mimeo, because I think there's a certain community that does it, and I'm curious about like how that Northeast Ohio doing there, or other folks are doing. Is there like you guys trade ideas, or trade process at all? Or are you just kind of flying solo with Empress?
I sort of heard your question. You're kind of cutting out, but there isn't much riso printing happening in Ohio. There's a little bit, and I think a lot of people are still kind of discovering it and catching on to it. Graphic designers are very quickly attracted to it, I noticed. There's a big community in Chicago and a little smaller one in Detroit. So most of the used equipment that I find comes from over there. But since COVID, a lot of people have been meeting online and doing Zoom meetings like this. And there's like a running every other week date of riso printers from all over the US that meet in a chat and just catch up and talk about what they're working on and problems they're having. So that's been really nice.
Incredible. And that's just, what's that through? I'm just curious, because I'm finding that the riso community is not necessarily, it's just like this community here, which is part of it. It's worldwide. So that's people around the US mostly.
Yeah, this one group is, I'm sure there's other ones. This one group was started by Rachel, who runs Taxonomy Press and puts out the Tarot Manifest. So it's just kind of people that she's aware of, and then other people get invited. If anyone's interested, I can send you an invite. Yeah.
For sure. Jim, do you see, is there a, and I guess this is kind of for Ginny too, because, you all are in the UK, which is the home of Gestetna. Is there I know there's a few other riso and mimeograph people doing things in the UK. Do you see a bustling community just in the UK, or some people, or you guys all know each other?
As Jen is doing the thing in Bristol, it is, let's face it, we are a niche community, okay? And it's really wonderful that this thing has happened, because it's a real reach out to people. I'm amazed to see so many people here, and it's a wonderful reach out. As far as the UK goes, I mean, we all live in our own little world, especially since we've been shoved back indoors by COVID stuff. But I think when we come out of doors again, maybe there'll be, even within our small little niche community, a lot more action and activity. And Jin, your thing, this exhibition is coming up, what, next month? Or is it this month in Bristol?
Next week. No, next 19th, week after. Yeah.
Well, okay. So only people in Bristol are going to be able to see it. Or I don't suppose, although it appears to me the whole of England is descending upon the southwest, because that's the only place where you can have a decent holiday in England. Pardon me for speaking Yorkshire. But do check that one out if anybody is from UK tuned in on this slot. Let's face it, it is a small little community we have here. All we have to do is to be able to leave a legacy. Is that the word? I mean, we're trying to pick up a legacy, and in a way, we want to extend that legacy, make that legacy last longer. And I've got a techie question. I saw those wonderful things from hectographs from the 30s and 40s. How do you keep the color from not fading on a hectograph? I mean, don't they just fade just like that?
Are you talking about after they're printed or on the pad?
After they're printed.
They are really susceptible to UV fading. So, there's some in special collections where Pete works and where I work that are so faded you can barely see them. And there are others that have obviously been stored properly and they're really brilliant. But yeah, if you were to leave it on the dashboard of your car for an afternoon, you'd probably come back to mostly a blank page. The aniline dyes, you know, the purple's used traditionally for schools and things because it did give the most clear copies and lasted the best. Going down to yellows, and the blacks you almost never see because they were so hard to pull off. So that's why you usually see stuff that looks like purple and red and blue, because it may have had yellow in it, but that faded away years ago, you know. So
yeah, yellow is going to disappear.
Yeah. I'm still fascinated by it, and I'm kind of deep into it right now. So,
but because I suspect that it's within this group that the history of this machine and this technology is being consolidated. And what we have to do is to make sure it just doesn't fall by the wayside, because it could easily have fallen by the wayside. It was really good to see in the presentation that one was picking up how it started back in the 20s and 30s as an important technology that was important outside of its business use, because that's where it started. It was a business thing.
exactly.
Same as a typewriter. Now no one's mentioned the typewriter yet, have they? And that is, I see, part and parcel of the way one tries to continue this, shall we call it, analog tradition of being able to get words onto paper.
Yep. And there was a question in the chat about the colors and can you use the different colors in a ditto machine, and you definitely can. But you're going to end up getting copies with colors that die out at different rates. So, but you can use the different colors besides the purple in the ditto machines.
Yeah.
Well, are there a few more questions for our panelists? Otherwise, I think it would be a great time to transition and have Jen talk to us about the Gestetna 140 project. What do you think, Joseph?
Yeah, I think now would be a great time to hear about that, if you could. I know there's some deadlines coming up, and please, if you would give us a little overview of what we have coming up, Jenny.
Great. I'm just going to share my screen.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully everybody can see that quote from
Yeah.
Algarbrada. Great. So thanks for having me. First of all, my interest in the Gestetna came about after joining a masterclass with Owen. It was in my first year of doing a multidisciplinary printmaking MA at UE. And like most people, my friends on that workshop were drawn to the print aesthetic and the simplicity of the process of that Gestetna, but I was drawn to the sound of the machine. And for me, that noise was nothing short of mesmerizing. I was also drawn to the layout of the pins on the Gestetna drum and the corresponding holes in the stencil sheets. And I decided to transpose those holes onto a stave of music to find the hidden sound of the machine. So there you can see the actual stave of music once I transposed those dots over. I kept in touch with Owen, and when I learned that 2021 was the 140th anniversary of the Gestetna, I decided to devote some time on my MA to finding a way to just kind of celebrate that event. So before COVID and the UK lockdown, Owen and I had talked about staging a major London exhibition with some accompanying workshops. And I was in talks with the London Science Museum when coronavirus hit the UK, and that kind of put an end to any plans for any public exhibitions. I had also planned to work with some musicians and develop a series of live music events. playing music that we composed using that that music created from the Gestetna dots. But the virus put an end to all these mad ideas, and instead Gestetna 140 was born. So Gestetna 140 is a multidisciplinary digital pop-up. That's the best way to describe it. It's a very simple website with a call out to artists, printmakers and musicians to create work that's inspired by the Gestetna. On April the 19th, the website will transform into an online gallery featuring submitted prints and music, which can be viewed, played and downloaded. There's a little taster here of just some of the prints that have been submitted, and it's been just wonderful to see things coming in from all over the globe and really tapping into that kind of global community, which I can say is definitely very vibrant. So loads of prints, posters, artist books, zines, some really beautiful stuff. But you have to go to the exhibition online to see it online. So as well as unveiling the gallery of prints and music, I'm really excited to be launching the Gestetna 140 player. This is an interactive experimental music player, so that when visitors come to the website, they can create music by playing with these Gestetna dots again. Each of the dots that you can see here produces a different sound. There's even a G spot, as you can see on the left-hand side there, extra big, so you can find it easily. And when you press that G spot, you get this sound of the Gestetna itself, which becomes the kind of percussion. And it's a kind of looped recording of the sound of that working Gestetna 360. So you can create an infinite possibility of compositions just by engaging with the simple Gestetna dots. The whole project's been about a year in the making, and it's going to run through till the end of this year. It's introduced me to loads of amazing people around the globe and allowed me to collaborate with some really interesting artists and printmakers in what is definitely a very vibrant duplicator community. The project attracted the interest of the magazine Printmaking Today, and they asked me to submit an article on the project. So I wrote about the Gestetna's history, about its shift from the office to the underground. I'm really interested in its role in subculture, but I also wanted to talk and write in the article about its kind of more recent renaissance as a tool for current printmaking and creative practice. So for the article, I interviewed quite a few printmakers, publishers and artists who use the Gestetna, as a central part of their practice. So the final article featured the work of Petra Schulz-Wohlgast, our very own Jim Pennington, who's here today, and US artist and printmaker Jane Norling. And I just wanted to talk to about those three briefly. That article, by the way, is in the current magazine, so if you can get hold of it in the current issue that's out now. So Jim Pennington, he's been an absolute godsend throughout this project. When I was unable to access recording studios to record the Gestetna, he jumped in and helped me, and he recorded the sound of his machine for the interactive player. He's also provided much of the content for the forthcoming physical exhibition, which I'll just tell you about in a minute. Interviewing Jane Norling was an absolute treat. She's a printmaker whose work was pivotal in the 70s, establishing the Gestetna as a really credible artistic tool. As designer and printer for the People's Press and San Francisco's Neighborhood Arts program, she was and still is an activist and a painter and a public artist. And for her, striking images ensured much better artistic communication, so that the duplicator gave a new voice to those previously who had never had, who'd previously never had access. Then moving on to Petra quickly, interviewing Petra gave me a really interesting perspective on the duplicator. She has an interest in outdated printed technology, which also interests me, and I know Jim. She relishes the restrictions that outdated technology imposes on her practice, and she sees outdated equipment like the Gestetna as a way of forcing a slowdown. She sees it as an expression of the desire to decelerate, to enable meaningful, profound action in the awareness that everything is limited. And I just love that idea. And maybe that forced slowdown that she's talking about allows us to find better kind of merit and meaning in our creative practice. So just quickly to wrap up, to coincide with the online gallery launch, there'll be a physical exhibition in the Special Collection Room at the University of the West of England in Bristol. That will also run from April the 19th until the end of June. Jim has been brilliant and lent me a total treasure trove of ephemera and Gestetna memorabilia. And that's going to be on display alongside some of Jim's work and some of Petra's work. Jim's glorious haul of goodies includes original manuals, some work from Burroughs and Cobbing, implements. It's going to be fantastic. So if you can't make it along to the physical exhibition in Bristol, please do visit the website, especially after the gallery and music and interactive player launch on the 19th. And in the meantime, please share the project with any studios and individual printers, because there's still a few days left to submit prints to the online gallery, and we would love to have as many as possible. Closing date is the 15th. And just finally, thanks to all the generosity of people who've donated prizes. Dan, the Rizzo man in the UK, has donated a Rizzo printer. And Printmaking Today and Cello Press have given a year's subscription to their magazine. And there's some really nice books as well from some of the panelists. So great prizes. Full details are on the website, and thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, thank you. It shows interest in so many different ways, right? The way you're bringing the multimedia into it with the music and the engagement. I'm really kind of blown away and impressed by your project in the UK and what y'all are doing to raise awareness up. It's a little bit of history. It's focused on the artwork as well, and also a little bit of inventiveness. And I think that's a good transition to talk about, just for everybody in general. Like, there's been some questions in this about where are we headed? And I think that this type of exhibition, and I see it as a world exhibition because you guys have world contributors to it. It's a UK thing, but you're bringing a lot of people are submitting, and the word is getting out. So so the fact that submissions are coming in from all around makes it a big deal. Yeah, like, I guess the question I have for everybody, and to talk a little bit about like that question that folks ask, which is like, where's the future, right? You know, the future is us doing more of these meetings. I could see us doing a bi-monthly, coming back together in a couple months and featuring 3 new people who are doing other work and in it. And those people are probably in the room right now. So if you have an interesting project that you have going, that's a Riso or Gestetna or stencil printing project, whether it's it could be focused on your work, the zine, the community that you're building around it. It could be focused on some little bit of history that you're doing a deep dive on. I know there's some real history nerds here, and including myself, that are really interested in the historic aspect of it. I know that's an important part of it, but I also see other things happening. I see us working toward a 150th anniversary Gestetna event somewhere. I see us working toward a meetup probably in Europe somewhere in the future, where we could come together and have a exhibition and workshops. I know that I've been trying to get Erwin. The COVID really put a stop on that. I have a secret Mimeo lab in Cleveland. We have 12 mimeographs in storage in Cleveland, which is going to be dedicated to the work of D.A. Levy. If any of you know the important poet from the 1960s, D.A. Levy made incredible stuff, incredible content on the mimeograph, and was a visual poet, an amazing poet. and his work is incredibly influential. And we're going to dedicate this Riso Lab to D.A. Levy, and we're going to have Erwin over to the United States, have him come over to Cleveland, fix up the mimeographs that we have, and then we plan on touring around the U.S. with Erwin and myself and maybe some other folks where, you know, we can go up to Iowa and teach a workshop up there. We can go to Oberlin, teach a workshop in Oberlin or Kent. We've got friends on the East Coast at Riso Lab at RISD that were interested in having us up. There's folks out in San Francisco who are interested in having us up. And I know that's just United States. So if you're in the US and you're interested, let's talk about something we can do in the next couple of years of having Erwin over here and do a tour and do a whole series of workshops. And I think together as a community, we could do that. We could and have but yeah, the future of Mimeo and Riso, I think, is going to be a publication, exhibitions, workshops, traveling with Erwin and I will rent a minivan and we'll drive around the country and make thousands of impressions, and Mimeo tens of thousands. Oh wait, Erwin's saying hundreds of thousands of prints that we'll do in the future. That's something we've been talking about for years and planning. But please, if anyone else has any thoughts about the future, whether it's our exhibitors or anyone else who's chiming in from some exotic place around the world, about how you see the future. We've got another 15 minutes on the call, so you know, who else sees something happening in the future? I'm interested to hear what everyone else has to say.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I think everyone after COVID is ready to re-engage on a physical level, and you know, that's one of the things that working with these obsolete technologies has really done for me over the past year is, you know, it's a break from this sort of mind-numbing sameness. I mean, I love that we can all be here together due to the wonders of high technology, but it's going to be a beautiful thing when we can all get together in the room and make prints. That's going to be really special. So I think it's a great excuse to start planning that.
Anybody in the U.S. want to host Erwin and I for a workshop in the future with your group or your community or your team? Or I know we'll come up there to Morgan, Anna, for sure.
Yeah, come to the Morgan and Zygote maybe too.
Yeah, I think those are communities. Erwin, your mic is muted.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was thinking to do the same kind of event what the Van Eyck is organizing at the Magical Riso, but to organize something only about Mimeo stuff, a 2-yearly event somewhere. Yeah, and to invite people all over the world, because I have enough machines. I can set up everything you want. The stuff is for me not a problem. Yeah. So this is a plan in my mind. Maybe somewhere in Swiss, but central, located in Europe, because I have a lot of people know me in Italy, in Austria now, Swiss. That's easy to a space what's easy to travel, and then I can learn so much. I can learn you so much more tricks and stuff, and how to make the best results of this with these machines. Yeah. So it's in my mind. Maybe each 5 years, or I think every 2 years, something like that. And maybe we can do same kind of thing in US. Yeah, because there are stored now about 40 machines. Joseph?
Well, I have like 12, 15 machines, but then we have
the collection
other
of
people who have machines waiting
Jeff's
for us.
collection. We have to collect Jeff's stuff too.
Yeah.
Jeff's stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I see Vancouver being mentioned.
Like 40 of them.
I see Vancouver being mentioned. I believe not this year, but next year, Corflu, correction which is short for correction fluid, the convention of zine makers.
Yeah.
I think it's in Vancouver in 2022.
Okay.
So that might
Interesting.
be a
Yeah.
that might be a great excuse to get Erwin over there.
And I know, wait, was it someone who did a live printing at a sci-fi convention?
Yeah, that was me. I've done a bunch of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that whole world too, it's a whole branch off of our world, because the sci-fi convention people, right, are super in love with the mimeograph process and for their fanzines, right? So it's like a kickback thing. And you said like that was sold out. That was sold out like the day it was printed.
Oh yeah. Well, we always do a limited edition with the participants, and so yeah, they always go fast. But yeah, that segment of the community, it's fun to see the old science fiction fans who remember and use those tools, and then the kids, like little kids, sitting down to a typewriter for the first time. It's just like magic. It's so beautiful.
I did something on the primary school. Children of age of 8 were typing stencils and running the machines. Yeah, about 8 to 10 years old. And they love it. Yeah.
I know there's also.
It was at my own school. Okay.
Go for it. Go for it. Erwin, go ahead.
It was my pilot project. It was on the school where I started at 10. It was at my own primary school. There I did the test how it would respond on people at that age when I started with Gestetnas. I never stopped. I do this for my 10th. And I'm 5th. Yeah.
Someday Erwin's going to show us this picture that he showed me when I was in the Netherlands of some like silly little printing contraption, Rube Goldberg style, that he tried to make when he was like 10, and it totally didn't work at all, right? and then he's got this funny little picture of him making a little printing press thing. Yeah. It's hilarious. Erwin, next time you show everyone that picture and embarrass yourself.
So much stuff. It's
so funny. Yeah. It's so great.
I have a confession to make. The first time I laid hands on a ditto machine, I was 12, and I made 20 copies of an underground newspaper, and commented on my social studies teacher's right-wing attitudes, and was suspended for 3 days for my first ever ditto publication. So, you know, it's a dangerous tool in the wrong hands.
Yeah, so I guess I have to ask everybody, you know, there's still 37 people on this call, which is fantastic. And, you know, it could just be a show of hands, but should we do this again in a couple months? Yes?
Yeah. Okay.
Another one for sure. We're very much interested in having, you know, you can reach out to us. We can schedule this another one for a few months down the line, and we can bring a few more folks available that are representing other parts of the world. And we'll probably find someone from the US and a few folks from Europe, or if we can get anyone from any other part of the world, would be amazing. So, you know, I'm down to do this again, to have another conversation. I think we could maybe, you know, God, I say we could work our way up to some sort of Mimeo printed publication. You know, by the end of the year, I think, or by early next year, I think we could coordinate contributions and do a 3-color type of thing that could go out to everyone. I think would be fantastic if we could work our way up to that, and bring some things that we talk about, because I know there's a lot of people here who are scholars and academics and folks that are artists. So I love the idea of the collision of artists and scholars and everybody kind of contributing their side of it, because as an academic and an artist myself, I find myself very much in that. I'm a little bit over here and a little bit over there, and I'm interested to see what other people are doing. People are doing little deep dives on historic aspects of a mimeograph or risograph or whatever it is, or Gestetna or whatever it is. to contribute to something that we could, out of this body, we could create a publication as well in the future. But that's just my vision. I think we could do it. But yeah, anyone else? Yeah. Oh, how do we stay in contact? Oh, great question, Igor. I guess we hadn't thought about that. Rich, how could we stay in contact? Good question. How do we gather everyone's information?
Well, I know there are a lot of folks who participate in the Mimeograph users group on Facebook. If you went to the Google Doc,
quick, everyone, put your email in the chat real quick, everyone.
Or if you aren't comfortable with that, both JS and my emails are in that document that led you here that had the Zoom link in it, and you can send them to us directly. We'll just set up a mailing list of some sort, and people can opt in or opt out. We'll figure something out to make it easy, so that you don't have to join in yet another social media platform or something. But
yeah, we could do something simple, like I could just put an email collector on the bit.ly link, and I think we'll leave that bit.ly, so the next meeting we'll just use the same link, and you guys can check the bit.ly link up, and we'll have everything posted for the next Zoom meeting and everything in a couple months. But yeah, I guess thank you. Everyone's dropping their email addresses in.
That's great.
If you don't feel like that, you can email me directly if you want. Here's my email in the list as well if you want to just send off an email. But this is great. I guess we can grab the chat. Yeah, any other last questions or thoughts? Anybody want to say anything or make a comment or what have you? You can unmute your mic if you want, make a comment or what have you. But I'm very grateful to Anna for jumping on, and Erwin and James for being our inaugural people. Oh, here's Erwin's gonna run a mimeograph for us. What a great way to go out. But yeah, Rich and I kind of connected on this and decided to do a meeting, and I'm grateful to all the people for being our first speakers, and I'm excited for all of you out there who are on this call to also be speakers in the future and contribute and be on the calls in the future and tell folks about it. Thank you so much. Yeah, 40 people plus on this call. And yeah, here we go. We can watch Erwin. What a beautiful thing, Erwin.
Brilliant. Well done,
Erwin, this is an old one, right? Erwin, this one is from, how old is it? How old is this manual?
20s. This is called a ream machine. And why? This is the first model you can put a full ream copier on the feedboard. This is a Gestetna ream. You see? Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where else in the world are you going to jump on a Zoom call and see some guy in the Netherlands using a 100-year-old printing machine to run prints live?
And this is the quite modern stuff. Huh?
Yeah, I know. I mean, who wants to do a field trip to Erwin's and camp out over there? Because I know I want to go back.
I'm now fixing an A3. This is the A3 machine, A3 size Gestetna. I'm now fixing this one. Yeah.
Wow. And Erwin, there's only one of those that you know of, right?
I have about 20 in collection, about 20 machines.
Oh my God, you have 20 of those.
I can make a full color set with these two. Yeah, these are the screens, you see? Yeah. Yeah. Cabinets. Yeah. And I'm fixing this one. I'm fixing this one for China. We're going to export 6 machines for my China project because it was a communistic country. You were not allowed to have these machines in private. So we cannot find machines there. So we decided to ship over 6 of my. I'm fixing them now. and we ship them to China, and they stay there for all the products of me there. Yeah, Shanghai Art Book Fair, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great to have someone on from China talking about their.
Yeah. This is a
Riso.
case last year from Swiss. They donated me all the last tools and stuff. This is special tools to adjust Gestetna. Without this, you can't. Yeah, it's hard. I've always these are my case to make adjustment to the right. This is original Gestetna stuff, and this is an tool you can put. This is the impression roller, and when you put this in the machine, you can exactly make the impression roller parallel to the bottom cylinder with this tool. You can exactly connect this and exactly make the good adjustments to fix the machines. Yeah, yeah. I got loads of stuff now from people who are mechanics who are dying now, and the family contact me. Do you want to have the stuff and the tools? So I have a lot of stuff now to adjust machines the right way. Yeah.
Wow, what a resource. That's great.
Yeah, and this is all tools and parts and everything. Screens, grippers, you see, springs. Yeah, handles, ink guns, everything. Yeah. Next time when we do the meeting, I will sitting in my storage. This is the workspace. Then you see piles of duplicators. Yeah, hundreds in racks. And the next time I will sit there. Then you can see the other part, the collection stuff. Yeah. This is only fixing. Yeah. Yeah. Jim, this is your cabinet. This is your cabinet. Yeah.
You know this is.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful, Erwin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was a great way to wrap
Beautiful.
up. I can't believe how quickly those 90 minutes went past.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really fun. And thanks to all the panelists and our special guest, Jen Saunders, and my co-host, Joseph JSmakkos. You know, I realized I had never actually heard your name pronounced.
It's Hungarian.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to relearn it because I had it Makkos in my head, like it was Greek.
Makkos.
Well, thank you all. This has been fantastic. I will save the recording and the chat. Joseph and I will try and make some sort of sense out of what we've got. We'll post it somewhere that all of you can refer to it. We'd love to have your suggestions about when and who for the next get together. And I guess with that, we can wrap it up. Any final comments from Joseph or any of the panelists?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.